Welcome to the Take Action Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Simmons, here to help you take massive action to being your best self. Many people don't believe in their own potential and don't always have the courage to change their situation. Join me and other guests as we give you practical ways to releasing your potential so that you can be your best self. Now let's stop playing and take action. What's up, y'all? We have another great episode here for you, and I have a very special guest with me today. We have Urmi Hussain. She is an amazing woman. She's an author, and she authored a book called Discovering Your Identity, A Rebirth from Interracial Struggle. She is in the financial service industry in Canada, where she currently resides, and she is a blogger, a speaker, and also a mentor. And one of the things that I really appreciate about her is she is an advocate for women's empowerment, and she is extremely passionate about teaching and mentoring other girls and women. She's part of an organization called Women in Leadership in Victoria chapter in Canada, and she is their social media lead. Please help me welcome Urmi to the podcast. Welcome. How are you today?
I'm good, and you?
Good. Well, I introduced you, but do you want to say anything a little bit about yourself? Say hello to our audience.
Hi. Well, I'm happy to be here, that's for sure. And you did say most of the things, so I don't think there's anything to add. You were pretty exhaustive.
Okay. Well, you've done quite a number of different things. So I truly enjoy you being on the show, and I'm so interested in talking a little bit about this book that you wrote and what led you to write this book. So to kick off the conversation, can you tell us kind of a little bit of what led you to, to become an author and write this book with the title of Discovering Your Identity?
Yes. Um, I think like many people, I always had in my mind to write a book, but I just didn't know when this was going to happen. And what happened is when I wrote this book, which was, I think, last year, a bit more than a year ago, I was often invited to different podcasts where basically people would ask me about my ethnicity, because I have a blog where I talk a little bit about who I am, where I was born, where I'm from, where I live. And when I would go to the podcast, people would ask me like these questions about how did you feel about being a third culture kid? And so because there was a lot of demand from that side, I was like, you know what? I think it's probably time for me to write this down somewhere. So it all started one day. I woke up and I was like, you know what? I think I want to write this book. But it wasn't like it was never in my mind that, oh, in 2022, I'm going to write a book. And it was not in my mind. I just woke up one day and I was like, you know what? I think this is a sign from the universe that I have to start writing. And so I started writing this book. I had a discussion with a friend who was already a self-published author. So he gave me a little bit of guides and advice on how to write the book. He also told me, oh, you should read this book that is called How to Write a Book in 30 Days. So I was on vacation. I read that book. And then the next thing, is that I came back and I was like, okay, I'm going to start writing. And the reason why I wrote the book was because I felt like I wanted to talk about myself from the perspective of a third culture kid, but also from the perspective of a South Asian woman. Because I was born and raised in Italy and my parents are from Bangladesh. So I consider myself Italian by birth and Bengali by blood. And I went a lot through a struggle of finding my own cultural identity.
Okay.
Especially because people would ask me where you're from, and I never knew how to give an answer about that. Like I never knew which side do I choose. Do I say I'm both? Do I say I'm one? Do I say I'm one or the other?
Yeah.
And that's what led me to write the book. And I also saw like a lot of people on Instagram who there is a community out there, people who are going through the same struggle. And so because of that, I was like, you know what? I think it's probably time for me to make myself visible to the world and also be part of a community. So that's why I wrote the book.
And even in just your initial explanation, you said so many things. Like you said that it was time for you to make yourself visible to the world, right? And I think so many times, especially us as women, we can hide, and for different reasons. You said you were, you didn't know what to tell people in terms of cultural identity and just being able to feel like you belonged, right? So how did you what was that process like to bring yourself out, to let people see who you really are?
It's uncomfortable. It was very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Very, very uncomfortable because I'm telling a side of me,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't quite sure about the reaction.
Mm.
And I was also not sure if I was going to be judged, criticized. And so it was a very, very uncomfortable situation. And I was like, how much of me do I want to put out there? How much do I want to tell?
Sure.
And I remember like talking to another person who basically told me that if you never put yourself out there, people will not be able to relate to you.
Mm. So true.
It's yeah. So
Yeah.
people will not be able to relate to you. People will not be able to understand you properly. People will not understand the struggle that you go through.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I was like, you know what? I have to find the courage to find that power to tell the world who I am and to
Mm-hmm.
be my authentic self. And I felt like it was more important for me to be authentic and honest
Mm-hmm.
rather than just hiding a part of me. Then people like would find it a bit difficult to like put together all the pieces, you know. And so it
Yes.
was uncomfortable, but then it was also very, very empowering at the same time.
Yes. And I mean, it really is. And so what do you think that what have you learned about even going through the process of writing a book that's so personal? What have you learned about yourself that you also pass on to other women and girls that you empower and mentor?
Probably the fact that I'm capable of doing this. Like I
Mhm.
never thought that I was going to, first of all, I never thought I was going to write a book. Second, I didn't think I was going to write it about myself. And
Yeah.
so the fact that I was capable was like a big milestone for me.
Mm-hmm.
That was that was something that, you know, I never thought I was going to never thought I was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely like there is a sense of accomplishment too at the same time. Like I do feel very proud that I was able to do this. And I feel like by sharing my story, I get people connected to me
Mm-hmm.
and people to open up a little bit about themselves. Because even in some other shows that I've been, I met with people that have multiple ethnicity and they could relate a lot with the same things that I went through.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like it's not easy. Like it's really hard when you grow up and you feel like you don't belong anywhere. You feel pretty lonely. You feel you're not normal in this. You feel like, okay, there is really something wrong with me that I'm not finding a fit. But the lesson that I learned from this is that, you know, you don't need to fit anywhere because like you just have to find a place for yourself. You create the place for yourself where you can fit in. So that was like the message that I learned. And that's how I approach everything that I do in my life. Like, you know, when they say if there is no seat at the table, you create the table or you create the seat, and you know, and that's how I am. That's how I am. Even if there is no opportunity, I create the opportunity in every other things in my life as well.
Man, this is so many golden nuggets, right? It's, I mean, I loved how you said that, you know, you created the space for yourself. Like you don't have to fit in, you created the space. And you also talked about, you know, just being, at least what I got from it, being comfortable in your own identity, right?
Yeah.
So how did you get to the place, Urmi, where you felt comfortable in your own identity, where being in a space where you didn't feel like you belonged?
So I don't, for me, I think it was like a long process that built up to it.
Okay.
Because like it wasn't something that I was actually working on, but it was like always in my mind. You know,
Okay.
it was always in my mind, on the back of my mind about this part about who am I actually, like who am I as a person, or who am I from the cultural point of view. And for me, it was important to find that identity because I look a certain way, but then I feel like when I'm speaking in Italian, that there's another side of me that comes out.
Mhm.
And I love eating pasta. I love speaking in Italian. I love being around my Italian friends. And so even though by blood I'm Bengali, there was still that side of me that was like, you know what, I'm not telling the whole story if I just say I'm Bengali. So I had to like add that part. And that it was like little things of me that made me realize that, you know what, am I comfortable to say that I'm Bengali Italian? Because even at home, for instance, or even with my family, like my sister, my cousin, I just speak in Italian. Like we don't speak Bengali. I'm the one who brought that at home. Like
Wow.
when I was growing up, because my parents, they taught us how to speak Bengali and so forth. But then as I started to go to school, and I always say Italian is my adopted mother tongue, like I'm the one who brought it at home because
Okay.
I use that as a way to communicate with my sister and even with my cousins. I use that. Like we could speak Bengali, but I think we all feel very comfortable enough to use that as our communication, like
Mm-hmm.
to communicate with each other. So that those were little things that made me think that, you know what, it
Mm-hmm.
has a huge impact in my life. And it is, I think, like it is part of my identity. So I think it just built up to it. And
Yeah.
then one day I was like, you know what, I no longer want to say or tell people that I'm from Bangladesh when it's not even true. Like I want to tell them that I am Italian Bengali. And so
Mm-hmm.
then I made this post on my Instagram where I posted a picture of me and I said, oh, like this is the Italian Bengali version of Jasmine because I had a blue dress.
Okay.
And that's when I realized that I was confident enough to say that those two cultures belonged in me, and like I felt unapologetic about it, because before I feel like I always had to like explain it and maybe feel sorry about it. Some people wouldn't even like my answers if I said I was Bengali, or if I would say if I was, yeah, some people question, yeah, some people didn't like it. Like
Really?
if I would say I'm Bengali, they would be like, oh, but why do you have such a strong Italian accent when you speak in English? And then if I would say I'm Italian, they would just stare at me and be like, but are you sure? Because you don't even look Italian. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
like people would always have something to say, or they would just look at me like with big question marks. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, you know what? I don't want to deal with this. Like, I just like, this is who I am. This is how I feel about it. You accept it. Whether you like it or not, that's not my problem.
Right.
You accept me for who I am.
And
And so,
okay, so let me, because I didn't even say this at the beginning. Bengali, what country?
Bangladesh.
Bangladesh. Okay, and so the language is the language Bengali, or is that a cultural identity? I'm asking for my own education and for
The language is Bengali, and we call people Bengali as well.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
So it's a cultural identity and the language, and also Italian. So Italian Bengali. That's the got it. So you speak both language. You speak three languages.
No, actually, I speak, I always say 4.5.
4.5. So what are the
4.5.
what? So let's lay it out. What are the languages that you speak?
English,
Yeah.
Italian, Bengali, French, and Spanish is the point 0.5.
So that's I don't know what's a quadruple
Uh,
lingual.
I don't, isn't that,
Quadlingual?
it's called polyglot, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. And
Yeah.
so you were able to, one of the things you said, you were able to bring your full self to the table and through your family too, right? So you would speak Bengali at home, but your family was speaking Italian?
No, it's the other way
The other
around.
way around. Your family was speaking Bengali and you were speaking Italian.
Yeah, and the other thing is that I enjoy eating pasta. So every time I would be like, no, we have to eat pasta. So like on Saturday, I was like, no, we have to eat pizza because it's Saturday. And in Italy, we do eat pizza on a Saturday night. So I was like, no, we have to eat pizza. And when I would come back from school, I would always complain to my mom and be like, why there is no pasta at the table? And she would always make Bengali food, but I was the one more inclined towards the Italian culture. So yeah, I was the one who I feel like I brought it home, but I never thought about it until a couple of months ago that I was reflecting on it. I feel like I'm really the person who brought that side at home.
Was that, did you get backlash from your family for doing that?
No, but you know, well, the thing is, my parents, they are very so the reason why like I would like they taught us Bengali and stuff like that, is because of course they want us to be
Mhm.
closer to their culture, which is something that I'm very grateful of.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they were very much aware that they didn't want me to be too Western. I don't know if it makes any sense of what I'm trying
Okay.
to say.
Okay.
Because the South Asian culture is a bit more, conservative, and there's a little bit of double standards. Women can do this, women cannot do that. Whereas the Italian culture, yes, there is a little bit of double standard, but I think it's a bit more, it's like progressing a little bit. At least I'm talking about the time I was growing up.
Mhm.
And so there were times where they would be like, yeah, like, don't act too much Italian. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And but you were
Yeah.
born in Italy,
Yeah.
and your parents are Bengali,
Yes.
and you have siblings too. Were they
Born in Italy too.
born in Italy? This is wow. But you live in Canada now.
You're right. I live in Canada now. I live in Canada now. Yes.
So that transition, how has that been? How has that been for you? Because you've lived in even different countries as well.
Yeah, and I think it was Canada that made me question my identity, because when I was living in Italy, it was an issue, but no one would ask me like, where are you from? Like, no one would question it. Like, they would see that I was like, I was either Bengali, or I was either Italian.
Mhm.
But in Canada, because there's such a big melting pot, everyone would ask me every single time, like, where are you from? And
Yeah.
and I remember going to university and being asked this question constantly.
Mhm.
And it was like, it's never enough. And
Right.
that's what really led me to, and I would say probably Canada has helped me to find my identity, because I feel like I could probably relate a bit more with people that were similar to me, because it's such a big melting pot. You see pretty much every sort of thing.
Mhm.
So in a way, like, I'm grateful that I was able to find that identity here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love that. And so for your process in really discovering you, I mean, you've always been who you are, but in not discovering, but more of being comfortable with sharing yourself with others. How have you experienced freedom in that, and what would you share with others around sharing themselves and how they can find freedom in that?
So definitely there is a sense of liberation
Mm-hmm.
when you assertively say who you are, if that's the way
Okay.
to say it. I think there
Yeah.
is a sort of like there's a like you do feel liberated, because I feel like you had these big question marks in your life, and you couldn't, like, you were not able to answer them, because the issue is that you also probably, like, when you don't talk about this thing, you don't find other people similar to you, so you need to have that open dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
and and I think having open dialogues is very, very important, because now that I know what I went through, if I meet someone who has multiple ethnicity, I always ask this question, like, who do you, like, what do you consider yourself? And I feel like I helped few people to, like, start questioning a little bit about their identity. So I think open dialogues is very, very crucial for anyone trying to find out who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that you have to define yourself, and you should not let anyone to define you.
Mm-hmm.
That's very, very important, because until a couple of years ago, people would define who I was, and I also did not like that, because they would say, no, but you're just Bengali. But I was never agreeing with that, because I was like, no, because if I say I'm just one thing, I'm not saying half of the story. I'm not saying
Yeah.
half of my identity. So it's also like choosing who you want to be. That's also very, very important.
Yes, absolutely. And I love what you said, like not allowing other people to say who you are, so it's important for us to show up, right, as ourselves, but being able to tap into, no, I'm this and that, and I
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
really, Urmi, I really appreciate your story, because even me, as hearing what you're saying, um, being identified as African American, but my ancestors back, I have no idea yet. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
my quest now, the next couple of months is to find out where are my origins, like where did my people start, where they
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
originate, and I know it's the continent of Africa. I just don't know where, and so
Mm-hmm.
I can certainly, like, I'm resonating and relating to what you're saying, in terms of your identity. I think I've
Mm-hmm.
just become, over the last couple of years, more aware of, like, wait a minute, I can't say exactly, where my people are from. And that
Mm-hmm.
does give you a sense of, like, where do I belong?
Mm-hmm.
I'm American, but I also have a history of where my
Yeah.
ancestors come from, So I really appreciate the fact that that you brought that out, and being able to share how important it is to not allow other people to identify you, and then to lean in and have the conversations,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
So, and as you are, as you now are living your life, and, you've written this book and you feel a little bit more comfortable, how have you been able to make connections with other women, and your relationships? Have you seen a change in how you show up and connect with others? And if so, in what ways is that beneficial, so that maybe someone else can take some tips from that?
Definitely, I do show up a bit more confidently,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it shows in a lot of the work that I do, and I'm happy of the progress that I have made. I think the younger me would be proud today of the things that I have done, and I think my connections has been great, honestly, just because I can see that with the work that I'm doing, with my book, with the volunteer work that I do, with my, social media, my YouTube channel, like I can see that more and more people are connecting, reaching out to me, even for like, and it's not just about cultural identity, but it's also about other things that I do, because I think they probably see that there is just a normal person trying to give tips, and they see probably my authenticity and my genuinity. I think that's how we say, my genuine side.
Yes.
And I think that's probably what they appreciate. And I think my goal is to come off as sincere as possible and help out people as much as possible.
Mhm.
So yeah, things has been really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And it's like your superpower, right?
I
I think
know.
where, talk about, like, the freedom to discover or be who you are, just the freedom to, like, listen, this is who I am, this is culturally, this is who I am, this is who I am at my ethnicity, and then this is the work that I do, and this is what I bring to the work that I do. And then once we can get past that, right? Because sometimes that can be a barrier for people, like,
Yeah.
I can't relate to you because you're not like me. And
Yeah.
there's something powerful about differences that we can learn from one another. But when you get past that, being genuine, being sincere, being
Mm-hmm.
relatable, sharing your story, because it takes a level of vulnerability to do that,
Mm-hmm. It
and
does.
just, and caring about people, like, caring about people has crosses every line there is, and
Yeah.
people can feel that. So
Yeah.
I love that you said that. Can you tell me a little bit more, or share with us, how the work that you've done, how that's translated into the work that you're doing now, with kind of empowering women and helping people come to a platform to share their stories?
You know what? It's the work that I do with women's empowerment has been really incredible, and I enjoy it like day by day, because I got to meet beautiful people and I mentor young people. So I usually call them Gen Zs because they're like younger than me, so they're actually Gen Zs. And like I I like mentoring like Gen Zs because I feel like I can see so much passion, so much drive, so much ambition in this like young woman, and it's just so beautiful to see their transformation. And I like that they have me as a role model, because I feel like I always wanted to have one when I was growing up, but I could not have one.
Yeah.
And I do like mentoring South Asian girls because I feel like I can relate to them. I can relate to the struggle that they go through. I can relate to how they feel, why they are feeling a certain thing. So I'm happy to like hold their hands and, bring them to this beautiful side, to bring them to become beautiful flowers. So that has been like, honestly, like everything that I do with women's empowerment, like mentoring, with the mentoring part, and also with the women in leadership work that I do, where I promote as much as I can about what we do as an organization. It's been incredible because we bring together people from all over the world who just want to get better, and they just want to take actions and achieve goals, and be go-getters. So it's been really good.
I love that. And everyone, I think everyone wants that, right? Every
Yeah.
woman wants that, every man wants that, to just get better, right? To
Yeah.
improve yourself. And I love how you are paying it forward and mentoring other women and being an asset to these organizations. And so let me ask you this last question as we kind of bring it to a close. I could talk to you for so much longer because I just found you so intriguing. Is now that you have accepted, right, yourself, you have kind of shown yourself to the world, brought yourself out. How now do you, or would you define freedom?
Probably self-acceptance.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, but I wish I had like a more sophisticated and fancier word though.
There is a lot that's in that word. Self-acceptance. That's good stuff. So for someone listening, if what would be your lasting words of wisdom, a tip that you would share with them for them to experience a deeper level of self-acceptance?
I would say a lot of inner work, a lot of reflection, a lot of time where it's just you and yourself. I think take time to write it down, maybe through journaling. I think it will help you to get a little bit of clarity about who you are as a person.
Perfect. Heard it. That's one. I love that. And if someone wants to stay connected with you, you're sharing some great content on social media, sharing your story. Tell us how they can stay connected with you.
So I have a YouTube channel called Urmi Hossain. I also have my blog called myways.ca. I have an Instagram account called Urmi. And once you go to my Instagram account, you can see the stuff that I do with the women in leadership. And I also have a LinkedIn profile called Urmi Hossain.
So y'all, we'll have all of her information in the show notes. So you don't have to try to remember anything. We will have that information there so you can stay connected to Urmi, because she is, as you can tell, a phenomenal woman who is paying forward the freedom through helping others feel accepted with themselves and sharing themselves with others. So I am so grateful to have you on the show. Thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for the work that you're doing to pay it forward for others to live in their truth and live in freedom.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. Until next time, take one step, one action so that you can be the best version of yourself. And we will see you next time. Thanks for listening to Take Action Podcast. I truly hope you were inspired to take massive action to being your best self. If this resonated with you, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a beat. And write a review so we can share this message with as many people as possible. Head over to my hub, NicoleSimmonsLeadership.com, for more powerful resources to help you release your potential. Make today count, take action.